Hello class, and welcome to week 2 of Introduction to Cultural Anthropology. You all did so great in your first week in the discussion forums. I am very excited about the quality of responses we've received so far, and the level of discourse between you all is a little higher than it generally is in this class, and I'm very excited about that. I did want to share with you something about the way that you're getting comments back from me in the forum. The university has changed the requirements for how instructors respond to you, and we're still sort of trying to figure out what those new requirements mean. So you may notice in week 1 that there are actually some thematically grouped comments from me at the end of the forum. If you didn't get a chance to read those, I'd really love it if you went back in and read them, because there's some really interesting material in there that further elaborates on what we read this week. For next week, they'll be threaded more in with your conversation, but this first week's is a little different than what you've been used to, and I didn't want you to be alarmed that perhaps I'm not reading all of your work, because that is definitely the case. Okay, so I have a few notes before you move on to week 3, and again in these videos it's more sort of about the process of our class than it is about the content, which you'll find much more of in my guidances for each week, and also in my comments in the discussion forums. This is a how do we get along, how do we make it work sort of videos. So I do want to remind all of you, as I said in one of my early announcements, that dictionaries, encyclopedias, and Wikipedia are all not acceptable sources in our discussion forums or in any of our larger assignments as we move on. Particularly, I want to speak to this question of why we don't use dictionary definitions. The thing is that a dictionary definition is the most general possible usage of the term, and we're really trying to get to specifically how anthropology uses a term, not how the other social sciences or general pop culture uses the term. So, while you might see in, say, for instance, Webster's dictionary, that assimilation means to adapt to a new culture, when anthropology uses that term, it really means it in a much more specific sense, and that is that there is a larger, more powerful culture that you are basically being forced to adapt to, and in which you lose most of the aspects of your own culture, as opposed to acculturation, which is more like one culture, two culture, sort of blending together on purpose, in which culture A ends up with some of the aspects of culture B, and culture B ends up with some of the aspects of culture A. There can still be a power differential in those, as evidenced by the fact that many places around the world, for instance, watch American movies, but we don't necessarily watch movies from all of those other countries, unless you're particularly into foreign film, right? Because in a lot of ways, the U.S. sort of has held the market on that particular cultural export. Okay, I hope that helps and isn't confusing that I'm using movies as the example. Okay, so anyway, no dictionaries. Look for the term in our text or in another anthropological source, but not in a dictionary or encyclopedia. And for sure, please, no Wikipedia. Remember, Wikipedia can be updated by anyone, so it's not necessarily a peer-reviewed source. Although there's some interesting information in Wikipedia, it's not going to be an appropriate source for any college class, not just this one. Okay, let's see. Oh, so we're starting week 2, in which you have your first written assignment. In this one, you'll be asked to take a little quiz that picks out 3 journal articles for you, and then your job is to find those journal articles in the Ashford Library and then find the thesis statement in each of those. There's a link in the assignment to the Writing Center at Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and it is very good. I really recommend that you use that. It will really make it easier for you to find the thesis statement in each of the articles, and then thus get full points, but also understand what a thesis statement is and how it operates, which is going to be very useful information as you work into writing your rough draft for next week. This is the first one of your assignments for this class that you'll be turning in using Waypoint, which is generally very easy to use, but I do want to encourage you, once you've submitted your assignment, there's a nice little button there that says check submission. Please do that. check the submission, make sure it uploaded to the computer properly, and make sure that you've uploaded the version of the document that you meant to. Many people go a little awry on this in that they download from Ashford a blank copy of the worksheet. Then they make another copy that they have their answers in, and then they upload the one that was blank. You don't want that to happen to you. So make sure you check your assignment submission, make sure that it's up. You'll also remember that this is the first of our written assignments, and thus it has a little bit of extra time if you need it. But I want to remind you again, as I did in week 1, that you will lose 10% of the points that you would have earned if it had been in on time for each day you were late. So basically you're dropping a full letter grade for each day, even if you did a great job on it. So, worth your time to get it in on time. You'd rather have an A than a B, a C, or a D, all of which are possible if you're late. Let's see. Oh, all right. In week 2, we are going to talk about race and linguistics. Odd combination, but I want to remind everybody as we move into this week that this is a topic that folks in the U.S. often have a very challenging time with. And so I want to remind you to be very respectful of others' opinions, of the way you respond to one another, of not putting personal or judgmental ideas into your posts. This is not to say that you can't have opinions, but I do want to encourage you to try to think with your anthropologist hat on, which is that even if there's a practice that we don't agree with or something we don't understand, we strive to understand it as opposed to judging it. Also, I want to remind you all that while you are welcome to disagree with the anthropological viewpoint on anything as you move through this class, you won't be marked down for that. You are required to present that you understand that viewpoint. So, say you read what our text has to say about race and you don't agree with what it says. That's fine. But first, in your discussion forum entry, I want you to explain how anthropologists see race and how they understand it before you go on to disagreeing with it and then backing up your opinion with scholarly sources. So, this is true for every topic that we will go through in this class. This is often a hot button one for students, so I wanted to make sure you knew that. Okay, so what else? I think that might be it for this week. Again, I want to say that the quality of your discussions this week were very good, very thoughtful. There was very little of that peer responses that look like, hey, great job, I really agree with what you said, do well at school. Instead, they were pretty thoughtful with lots of commentary and things from your own experience, and I think that bodes well for the rest of our time together. So, here it is. It's Monday afternoon. You'll probably be seeing this in the next 24 hours. I hope you have a really great time with week 2. Remember, if you're having any trouble with our assignment for week 2, drop me an email with plenty of time, and I'll get back to you and help untangle anything you might not understand. All right. Have a great week. Bye-bye.